Welcome, everybody, to the Ryan D. Leaf Show. You can call it the RDL Show. This is a brainchild of having worked for ESPN last year and, getting asked to guest host the Rich Eisen Show a bunch. Whether I wanted to do something like this, whether I could be any good at it, whether it was informative and what a show like that would look like. So, a couple buddies and I ventured to think that in a year like 2020, where we lost so much control of everything, I got pulled off the road from ESPN, was covering the Oklahoma Pro Day, and it just kind of goes away. And we still have a voice and we still have a platform. How do we go about doing something like that? No, I'm old. I'm 44 years old, so I don't know what YouTube is, and I don't know what Twitter Live is. I don't know what Instagram Live is. So I need these youngsters to help me be part of it. Jonathan Rifkind, my partner on Believe in the Pac-12 podcast. Sky Wasco. I knew I was going to mess that up if I did it right. Charlie Moss joining us here. We're going to be talking about all things sports, everything that brings you to the conversation. But I want it to be different. I want it to be a show that brings us together and talks about some of the hard things too, right? Because sports gave me everything. And I think for the longest time, I looked at it as a toxic part of me, that in particular pro football. But, what I remember about sports is waking up every morning and by my dad and having him bring me upstairs and cook me breakfast. And there we are. And we start talking about sports, whatever is in the news at the time, whether it's basketball season or baseball season or football season. My mom would always be in the next room and she could hear, and she would always know what season of sport it was by what statistics we were talking about. And I think that's what sports does. It brings us all together so then we can have open and honest conversations. We can have a lot of fun. Some things are incredibly serious. I don't take myself very seriously. And I want to interact with the audience. Simple. I want you guys to be able to ask questions, interact, be a part of it. I think that's the funnest part. So we made a decision that we were going to do something like this in 2021, where we were going to take a bit of the control back. And we were just simply going to go out and put together a show. Let the chips fall as they may. In a year from now, or a year and a half, we'll see where the audience is, whether you enjoy being a part of our family, and whether or not you're having any fun. And I think you will. We promoted the show a little bit about it being a sports-centric show, yes, but as my history is presented to most people, like, it's got me involved, right? So it's probably going to be fucked up a little bit. It's more of my personality, which I think a lot of people believe that it's fundamentally serious about the platform I keep in terms of mental health and substance abuse. Yes, those things are a big part of it, but I don't take myself very seriously, and sports allows you to be much more self-deprecating and talk about some of the cool things. So that's what the show is going to be. We're going to have guests from time to time that venture as far out to as the entertainment world or sports specific. It's only going to be an hour show, right? We're going to fill a lot of sports information, and this all stems from my story, right? The only reason I am able to do something like this and have something like this for everybody else is because of my story, the one that I went through, the one that I'm grateful for. There was a tremendous amount of success, highs, very public lows, and then a redemption of sorts. I don't like that word, but in a place where I feel comfortable putting together a show like this and talking about the sporting world and about my life and about some struggles that are going on in it right now for everybody, not just athletes on the sports side. So let's get those boys back in here, and we're gonna start off with the breaking news from the day, right? Peloton and JJ Watt were putting together a deal today to talk about where he was going to go, and he made an announcement where there's going to be 3 places. Well, it turns out JJ Watt doesn't even have a Peloton bike. He says, I'm the only source on this one. J.J. Watt signing with the Arizona Cardinals, 2 years, $31 million. Now, I ask you guys and everybody out there, is this the right fit? Now, hey, Chandler Jones and him have combined for the most sacks since 2012, okay? Now, that's 8 years of playing football. That's 8 years of playing football. So that's great that cumulatively they have that many sacks, but is J.J. Watt going to make that big a difference on an Arizona team that was mediocre at best last year? Where are they trending to? Is this a contender realistically for J.J. Watt now that, he finally found a new home?
Is Kyler Murray the quarterback that you picture on a team that's in contention right now? I think that's the question you need to ask, because J.J. Watt, yeah, he's going to add an extra level to that defensive line. But if you can't protect your quarterback, and if you don't have a quarterback that's going to be able to move the ball consistently, make the right reads, obviously DeAndre Hopkins is a beast, and that helps. But I think that the continuity offensively has been the biggest Achilles heel for the Cardinals last few seasons. And J.J. Watt signing to that team doesn't really address that issue. So, yeah, you get it.
They also, you got to think about what division they're in. If I'm J.J. Watt and I'm looking at the division, right, I see the Seattle Seahawks sitting up at the top with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll as the head coach. And then the LA Rams just went out and got a quarterback they believe is the next step to them getting back to the Super Bowl. And the San Francisco 49ers are just a year removed from going to Super Bowl. So, I don't know what this does. I don't know if this is more of a money play. Who knows what kind of offers he was getting from the free agent side of it. But
where should he have gone, Ryan? Should he have gone to Buffalo? Buffalo's a contender for me, right? Cleveland, I don't think they're a contender, right?
I do. I think both of those spots would have been both those teams contended. Who contended more in the AFC playoffs against the Chiefs? The Browns did. And in fact, they don't fumble it into the end zone, and a first-year head coach doesn't realize that he probably won't get the ball back again, goes for it. Maybe that's a different story. So Cleveland definitely was a landing spot. I'm a little surprised at this. I really am. I'm a little surprised, but hey, as long as he feels comfortable with his decision and he gets to play football to finish his career, I mean, I'm not gonna bash on the guy for doing this. It just doesn't seem like he. Unfortunately, what was my first text to you guys when I got this information? Like, it's unfortunate he's not going to win a championship in his career, right? But it's only 2 years. Things don't work out in 2 years. Maybe he, jumps on ship like Junior Seau did later in his career with the Patriots and got a chance to play for a Super Bowl and things like that. So we don't know. It's only a 2-year contract, guaranteed around $23 million. But free agency is starting to pick up, right? The franchise tag has started to pick up on the NFL side of things during this, and we're going to find out more and more about what guys are doing. But for the majority of the conversation this fall will be, what are the quarterbacks doing? And I had a lengthy conversation with some guys last week about where are we going with this? Is this more going to be about player mobility in like the NBA? So when we see a disgruntled player and he wants to jump ship and he wants to go to a place where he feels he has a better chance of winning a championship, are we going to see that happen? Now, I don't think this is a situation where we're going to think about it more in the sense of being just a quarterback conversation, right? This is going to be quarterbacks about just like the portal is in college, right? It's about the quarterbacks. It's not about other players. The quarterbacks being able to move around and have the power is what exists. You need a franchise quarterback to win a championship. So what I think is going to happen is in particular the ones we were talking about: Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and I know Aaron Rodgers' name was even thrown in the mix early on. The bigger names, Wilson and Watson, right now being talked about as guys that can go anywhere. I don't know if that's so true. Their cap numbers are so large, in particular Russell Wilson's. What about Deshaun and his continued ability to say, hey, I'm not going anywhere, or I'm going somewhere, like I'm not playing here anymore? What are the Houston Texans going to do? Now, do they get pressured enough by local media and people who believe they need to move on? Do they get a desperate offer from somebody? And I think the floor of that offer needs to be something like the Herschel Walker trade. And if you're the Houston Texans in that scenario, you were the Dallas Cowboys, and they went on to win 3 championships in the next 4 years. Okay, so my biggest question about that is there going to be a team that's willing to just pay the king's ransom? Because as of right now, the Houston Texans, they're not interested in moving on. And if they're not interested in moving on, Deshaun Watson's only recourse is to not play and to sit out. And I don't know how that works for anybody, but it's almost a fight of wills right now. And I don't think anybody wins in that scenario. How about you guys?
I don't know. This is a tough situation because what's the market too? Like Deshaun Watson, one of the big things here, Ryan, and I'm curious your thoughts. I was going to bring it up in the pre-production meeting, and then we have a few comments here to get to as well on this conversation. Is Justin Herbert for Deshaun Watson a trade that the Chargers should consider? Straight up.
Oh, I mean, that's apples to oranges. I really do think, because Deshaun Watson didn't have the kind of year that Justin Herbert had in year 1, right? So you got to maybe look at it in terms of where they are in their careers. I think you've got you found a diamond in the rough in Justin Herbert. A lot of people did not think this was what we were going to get from him at the quarterback position. Now, you and I certainly felt different, having covered him and watched him for the last few years. We thought I also didn't think he was going to make the splash that he did. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't think he was going to be great. Like, the quarterback position in the AFC West is firmly entrenched. I don't think you do that. I don't think you do that unless you get a lot more in return. I mean, you got to be able to get an opportunity to get fellow draft picks to help bolster that team. I know they were very injury prone a year ago. I just can't see it. I just can't see a team doing that when you just had this success and finding the next great quarterback there. Because, since I left the Chargers, since that failure stopped, they went Doug Flutie, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, now Justin Herbert. They've been incredibly blessed at the quarterback position since 1999, 2000. And they're continuing down that path. It's been more about finding, the contributing factors on the offensive and defensive side. And they were so injured a year ago. It really wasn't very fair for Anthony Lynn in a season like that, to be representative of what that team was, because I really think he could have done it. We got some questions though, right? What do we got here? I'm just looking in this read here. It's first show, figuring it out. Do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be able to attract more free agents? Well, I mean, Urban Meyer's an interesting hire. Okay. Their ability to attract guys, but don't forget they did this a little while ago. They were in the AFC Championship. They attracted some major players on the defensive side of the football. And what have they done with that the last couple of years? They've just shipped them out of town. The Jags have never had a Hall of Fame football player. That's understandable, having been one of the newer franchises in the NFL. But they've been relegated to pretty much the bottom of the league for the most part. Now you add 2 guys right at the forefront. You add a guy like Urban Meyer, who's an unbelievable coach, who's never had an under 500 record in his head coaching experience, all college. I think his lowest year was a 7-5 year with the Florida Gators, and he left right after that. So you have a winner, and then you're going to draft arguably the most talented quarterback at that position since maybe Andrew Luck was coming out. So you have a pretty sure thing at the quarterback position, and you have a head coach that's a winner. So with all of those that are in play, it allows for you to hopefully attract more free agents. You're talking about Florida, the weather, the state income tax. Those are little things but you got to go out and win. And this next year, it's going to be difficult because you're not going to get a bunch of free agents, but you're going to have to go out and win. And my only theory about Urban Meyer is when things got tough, when things got rough, he walked away sometimes. And what happens when this team is 4-12 or 6-10? where he's never experienced that. Is he able to weather that storm? Because in the NFL, it's different, right? I mean, it's week to week. What have you done for me lately? And if you're not winning, things can get really, really difficult in that locker room. And do you have the right head coach in the right spot? I wonder what this means for my boy Gardner Minshew, Washington State Cougar. Of course, he got a chance to be the starter a year ago. Didn't really pan out. He got injured. I don't know where they sit with him, but I think he'd be if anything, a solid backup for Trevor Lawrence, or if they need him early on to be the leader. I think that's a good position for him. So excited for what they have to bring to the table, what the draft looks like. That's going to be a lot of fun. Whether it's going to be on site. Whether Trevor Lawrence is going to be there in a suit, to hug the commissioner, things like that. I probably doubt it. I think 2021 is going to look eerily similar to 2020 in terms of what the draft, which was a success. The virtual draft last year was a success. You got to be with your family. Sometimes I think about it. I was lucky to have my whole family there at the draft with me, but maybe being in my little living room with my little grandma and all my aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody like that, maybe that is actually the more apropos way to do it, and not to hug a man you've never met before, who you'll probably never meet again in that process. I think that's probably a better thing. And maybe we found that out a year ago. And a lot of guys this year, if they decide to put a draft together, say, hey, I'm gonna be home with the people that are meaningful to me and experience it through that. So we'll see. What other questions do we got here, guys?
What are your thoughts on Big Ben?
Ryan, we've got a.
Oh, sorry about that, Sky. Do you have a better one?
No, I was just going to mention that there's a number of these quarterback questions coming in here, and kind of can group all of them in, but specifically with this conversation, kind of the quarterbacks on the move, I think would be something to stick to. For example, Sam Darnold, Alex Smith, and Cam Newton. Those are quarterbacks that, being released, or with Cam Newton, his current situation, will he stick around in New England? Sam Darnold looking to be on the move, still young, younger than players coming into the NFL still. And Alex Smith, of course, imminently
and throw
being
Dak
released
Prescott
from
in there
Washington.
too. We got some questions on Dak Prescott.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that player mobility is on people's minds, right? And what does that look like? Jets fans want let's start with this, right? So the NFL it's about turnover. It really is, right? Every year there's 8 or 9 coaches, new head coaches after firings. And then when that happens, the conversation revolves around it's a rebirth. Do we need a new quarterback? Because quarterbacks rule the world in terms of the NFL. So I think the New York Jets have somebody. I think that Adam Gase really hampered the development of Sam Darnold. And I believe that given another opportunity, especially one where he's still on a rookie contract where you can build around, I think you can go get another offensive lineman in Penei Sewell. I know it's another left tackle, but you can figure out ways to complement him with Mekhi Becton to really secure Sam Darnold, get him some weapons, be better on defense. It's going to be hard. Buffalo is the team that's trending up in that division. But if you're going to go back to the drawing board and go after a quarterback, you got to be right on. And in a year where there's a lot of speculation in terms of who the next quarterback is after Trevor Lawrence, because of the uneven competition, the inability to be out on the road for scouts, no scouting combine, all of these things. I mean, you have to be sure. You have to really be sure. And your percentage on whether you hit on a quarterback or not, it's not good. I was saying 50-50 for a while, but it's not even close, right? It's probably more on the other end of that, 25% success, 75% non-success. And you are mortgaging your organization a lot of times, not as much now because of that rookie contract, when you pick a quarterback. So I think Sam Darnold's in a position to be okay. Now, the Cam Newton scenario, right? We've seen his better days. He really struggled a year ago. I don't know where he goes. I suspect somebody will pick him up for a minimal contract to back up, and I don't know if he'll see the field unless an opportunity presented itself. But he really looked like he struggled a lot last year. Some arm strength issues. He's one of the best players to play in the NFL over the last 2 decades, I feel. So, we'll see there. Who was the third one on there besides it was
Alex
Newton,
Smith.
Alex Smith. Alex Smith set to be released by the Washington football team. Now we heard him come out with some comments a week ago, and I was doing NFL radio at the time, and I was a little interested in why it came out at this time and why we were talking about it. And I either thought, oh, they must have talked to him about how they were going to move on. Like me, apparently the Washington football team was concerned, every time he was out on the football field, because you just don't want to see something like that happen again. And B, you're proud at the accomplishment and the comeback, which is amazing. But I was so fearful every time he took the field. And I guess you cannot remove that from a violent sport as it is, but playing on half a leg, it almost seemed like it creates, $15 million of cap space for the football team in Washington, and where they go at the quarterback position, they're going to be in that. Now they keep Kyle Allen. They signed Taylor Heineke to a 2-year deal. Ironically enough, Heineke prepared, played, executed better than any of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks that Tom Brady beat through the playoffs this year. Interesting. Ron Rivera is going to get him to play. Fortunately for them, they play in the NFC East, and that leads to not having the greatest of records to be successful. And it's where we stand with the NFL right now. As for Big Ben, I know that was initially one of them. He has said he wants to be there. The Steelers have said we want him back. The contract's going to have to be manipulated, because I think his cap hit is the highest it's ever been, around $41 million, I think it is. So it's going to have to be dramatically different. Now, what does that mean? Because they got a lot of issues. Pouncey retired. It's been a center forever. Villanueva at left tackle is a free agent. They need to bolster that running game, because that's when Big Ben's been his best, when they run the ball better. Receivers dropped a hell of a lot of balls. But defense has caught on late in the year and realized that, hey, Big Ben wasn't sitting back there forever like he used to. He was getting rid of the ball as quick as possible. So they didn't bring as fast to rushes, and if they did, they got their hands up and made plays. And for a team that was 11-0 to finish 12-4 and get blown out in the playoffs, that was really disappointing, and it's a taste in Ben's mouth that he doesn't want to happen. So I expect him to be back. Now, we're going to get into this in a second here. We got to do some advertising, but it's because it's so cool, the advertising part of all this. But we got to get into the favoritism here on our show too. I want to find out whose teams are everybody's favorites. So when you're listening at home and you hear us talk about it, you can play with a grain of salt, because I'm a diehard Steelers fan. So when we're talking about the Steelers, you probably have to get you can get a lot of inside information from me, but probably the bias part of it, not so good. Let's read some ads here right now. So I think a lot of you that follow me know I was about almost 300 pounds just under a year ago, and I reached out to a friend of mine who owns this company, Sunfair. Today's way to eat, all right, since 1997. Good year, by the way, 1997. And what they do is they deliver your meals every morning to you, fresh, gourmet, unbelievable food. And so I started on this. We kind of came together with an idea of what goals I wanted to achieve. I just, and being home in a pandemic, I was able to not travel, not be in a hotel room, not order wings or pizza before going to bed. So we started July 3rd. I weighed 298 pounds, guys. Now, 298 pounds on this frame isn't necessarily terrible, but having seen the pictures now next to this one, it's a significant difference. So we started gradually. We started with a different diet called the fat burn diet. It was, limited calories for about 5 days, removing all sugar, all gluten, all carbs, all dairy. It's a tough 5-day work, but then you move on and start into the next one, which is a signature diet, and you start eating more things you like. Like today, I picked up my green bag this morning off the porch, and in it for lunch today is a unbelievably just great ground turkey burger with bacon. That's my lunch. There's a snack that comes with it, and then a dinner. you eat it during specific times during the day. They help you through that process. And it's been life changing for me. It really has. I should have probably sent you guys a picture of my before and my after, but I'm sure we'll have plenty of times to read and talk about.
Ryan, rumor has it that you actually have abs now. Now, if I could just eat a meal and get abs like you, I'm definitely eating that meal, right? Like, I actually have to go to the gym. I have to do real work to get abs. You just lost weight.
I have not worked out since March. It's been all food, golf, and hiking. That's what it's been.
Sunfair, man. Sunfair.
So, here's what you need to do, okay? And this is huge, right? We didn't have any subscribers when we started this about 10 days ago about what we were going to do, but we had a couple sponsors jump on board before we had an audience and want to be a part of something. And Sunfair was one of them, and they are one of our title sponsors. And so this is what you need to do in order to ensure that you get the discount, okay? Go through the sign-up process on sunfair.com. Once there, go to the enter your information page. They need to, one, select Carl Farrow as the sales representative. Carl's my boy. He's my nutrition guy. He keeps me going. I had to send him pictures of my scale every morning for like the first few months. We've been in this together. Select Ryan D. Lee Show. That's how you heard about us. And then complete your sign up, and you'll get started. Now, this, of course, is only in the Los Angeles and Arizona areas right now. Unfortunately, they are looking at ways to broaden their way to distribute this great food. But right now, it's in the Los Angeles and Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale areas where you can order. Your food will be delivered every morning, and you'll be set for the day. And it helps you stick to it. Hey, ironically enough, I have to go get all new suits and everything to go on TV. But luckily, because of COVID and everything, I haven't been on TV for a long time. So this is the next closest thing. I'm usually sitting down, but I am going from time to time to get up here. I'm going to go over here and pick up my baseball bat probably if I want to swing about some things. So let's start there. Let's start favoritism. All right. So I want this kept for just future references. Now, football. Okay. Pro football. My favorite team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's start from top to bottom here. Jonathan Rifkind, what is your favorite pro football team?
So I'm from Los Angeles. I was born in '97. Was never exposed to football, the professional football, outside of things growing up. Yeah, I was born the year that Ryan Leaf blew up the college football scene. I don't even remember. Maybe that was my first memory, was watching a Washington State Cougar game. I don't know. Anyway, so I watched a lot of college football growing up. I was a USC fan. I was a third generation Trojan that didn't get into USC. Only God knows why. Probably didn't interview very well. But when I moved,
didn't have that full house money. Didn't have that full house money.
No, I couldn't pay my way onto the rowing team to get admission into that one. But anyway, so when I started getting to the fantasy football scene about 2010, 2011, I decided to become a Bengals fan because AJ Green was my first pick. He really blew up for me, led me to a runner-up my first ever year in my fantasy football league into the championship. So I was like, all right, went on some third-party site, got a really cheap AJ Green jersey that was falling apart. I'm pretty sure the Bengals logo wasn't even the Bengals logo on that jersey, but I was a Bengals fan for a little while. Then I realized how exhausting it was to root for Andy Dalton and just be disappointed every single year. So my disdain for the Steelers and the Ravens has actually been carried with me throughout my NFL fandom, but I've since dropped the Bengals as my team. I say I'm a fan of good football, but being from Oregon, I love Justin Herbert, and I'm from LA, so the Chargers. Ironically,
right, so this is a new thing. So so really whatever Jonathan has to say about pro football, as we've gotten that answer, it's going to be convoluted. All right,
it's going to be the Chargers. It's going to be the Chargers for all intents and purposes here.
All right. Sky, where are we at on pro football?
All right, so I grew up a little bit north of Jonathan in the Bay Area in California, just outside of San Francisco. So naturally, I am a 49ers kid growing up. I was born in '87, '82 and '85. They win the Super Bowls. but I brought him a little extra good luck. We went back-to-back in 89 over those Bengals. Sorry, Jonathan. And in 1990, the largest win in Super Bowl history, 55-10 over Elway's Denver Broncos. Great early 80s or late 80s success for the Niners. And then the 90s, 95 over the Chargers. But growing up with Steve Young and the end of Joe Montana, that era anyway, before he went to Kansas City, Jerry Rice, of course, his incredible defenses, even shouts out to some linemen, Kevin Gogan, Jesse Sapolo, Harris Barton, throwing out some older names. But I mentioned that, Ronnie Lott, some of these guys, Merton Hanks, they used to come out to the local mall that I used to frequent as a kid, and they would do like signings and stuff. And of course, this is way before
go there and do breakdancing. I always thought they'd go there and do breakdancing.
Way before social media and everything else. And I would wait in line for hours as a kid, have a little, football helmet or a football, whatever it was, and they would take the time and sign it. Great memory for Kevin Gogan, 6'6", 300 plus.
Kevin was my third year in San Diego. He was an offensive lineman. He was also a Husky, so I don't know if we ever truly got along, right? All right, Charlie.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
So, born and raised in the city of Chicago, been Bears fan my whole life. I remember Devin Hester taking it to the house in the Super Bowl, one of my best childhood memories, must say. But then we moved into the Smoke and Jay era. We had Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, so we had some good years then. And then kind of moved over to Trubisky, and one of the questions we actually have is Mitchell Trubisky a bust? And considering the fact that Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson were in that draft and were picked after Trubisky, in addition to the Bears trading up for him, yeah, he's a bust. He's a huge bust. And the sad thing is he's a very likable guy. He's someone you want to root for. He works hard. He seems like a good teammate, and at least that's what I can see from the outside. But he just can't get the job done, and it's time for us to move on and finally get the franchise quarterback we've been missing.
We don't like the word bust around here. We don't. No, you think you figure that out hosting a show for the first time. We don't like the word bust. Okay, so the question is Mitchell Trubisky a bust? Of course not. He's not a bust. He's been to the playoffs. He's a Pro Bowler. Okay, that word cannot be utilized if you've been to the playoffs multiple times as a starting quarterback and the Pro Bowl. Now, guys he was drafted around who could have been drafted before him, we're talking about, Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. Deshaun Watson has won as many playoff games as he's won one more, I think, than Mitchell Trubisky. Hasn't won a Super Bowl. Now he's asking to be out of there. So I don't like that word. I think it, I think diminishes what kind of success somebody's had to get to a place like that. Now, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, I get it. All right, I get it. It has felt like it's been less than. Mm-hmm. So we bring the bat out when we knock away things. I think that's going to be the theme of the show. Louisville Slugger, thank you for making the Ryan Leaf from Great Falls, Montana bat. It's been in my life now for a long, long time. So we appreciate that. That is not an ad, people, but when you have kids, make them cool things that they keep the rest of their lives. And then at some point when they decide to do a YouTube show at 44, they can have it to use to bat away people's. It's so simple to go to that, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Trubisky ends up on a team where he gets another shot similar to Tannehill. I really do. I think that could be a possibility where if he gets the right team with the right offensive coordinator, I think he could be rather successful. Now, is he going to be as successful as Mahomes and Watson? No. It is what it is.
Carson Wentz or Mitchell Trubisky right now, as it stands?
I would take Mitchell over Carson right now. So I think what we've seen is a deterioration on the Carson Wentz side, where we've seen upward movement with Mitchell Trubisky. I really do. Now, when faced with good defenses, those three out of the last four games, he was stellar. They get to the Green Bay Packers, he looks less than. They go to New Orleans for the first round of the playoffs in a wild card, and they back their way in because an extra team was allowed into the playoffs this year. They get thumped by a New Orleans Saints defense that was very, very good. So clearly against great defenses and better to good defenses in the NFL, he's struggled. But I also think that plays into a huge part of things when it comes to what the team does too, right? We forget about this. Quarterbacks get so much blame, so much criticism when things go bad. And it's not necessarily their fault. If all 11 guys aren't doing what they need to, if an offensive lineman's not blocking the right way, allows somebody to come free, if the receiver runs the wrong route, an interception is thrown, all of these things. Ironically enough, since I just saw this stat, I don't know if you guys saw it, since 2012, the only quarterback who hasn't thrown a pick six, who is it?
Mitchell Trubisky.
Mitchell Trubisky. Only one out there. Even our precious Aaron Rodgers has thrown a pick six. In fact, he did it a few times this year, I think. So, so that's where we're at. So I get it. Bears, 49ers, Chargers, maybe. We'll see.
Justin Herbert.
Jonathan is a complex being. I'm finding out. I am a Steelers fan. I do not have any Steelers memorabilia up. I do have one in the living room. By the way, this studio, everybody, is in my home in Beverly Hills, California. So I'm enjoying the nice weather. Charlie, the only one who is dealing with the Midwest weather in Indiana.
I must say,
only quarterback. Here's the stat right here. This is great. I appreciate this. Only quarterback to start 50 games and never throw a pick six in the modern era. That is the stat. That's pretty good.
Thanks, Dean.
I'm trying to think of when I threw my first pick six. I didn't realize it until somebody put it up on, I don't know, probably YouTube. I threw 2 pick sixes in the game against Philadelphia when I was with the Cowboys, and I don't remember it. I didn't remember it all until they put them on the highlights, and I was like, oh my God. And I threw 2 interceptions for touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles. That, my friend, who just came up with the, yes, he is a bust, that makes you bust worthy, all right? When you throw 2 interceptions for pick sixes in a game against the Philadelphia Eagles. One right before halftime.
Do you remember your first completion in the NFL?
No, I don't remember my first completion. My first touchdown was to, I can't remember his name.
I doesn't remember it either.
Just want to give
Brian Still out of Virginia Tech, wide receiver, caught a little fade route to the right on Buffalo. Should have been a long touchdown. I threw him a bomb about 2 plays previously, and he got caught from behind before the horse collar rule was implemented, and he got pulled down and down at the 3-yard line, and I threw a touchdown after that. So now there weren't many touchdowns. I think there were only 2 that year. Oh, God, that's bad. So that's the bigger question. People have this question about Daniel Jones. Hey, is he the answer in New York? Well, guess what, people? This year he encroached on a record of mine. Most turnovers in your first 26 starts ever. And if you're making that comparison to run and leave stats, he's probably not your quarterback for your future. So if you have a chance to do something, I think if I'm them, I'm in the conversation from the jump when it came to Matthew Stafford, and now with Deshaun and Russell Wilson. I'm looking for that. I'm packaging Daniel Jones, maybe even Saquon Barkley, and I'm looking to build my team at the quarterback position because I don't think you found the right one there. And I'm not shitting on Daniel Jones, though. When you compare him to me a little bit, that is kind of getting shit on. But there's the truth too. It's just the way it is. You got to have a quarterback to get it done. And right now, there's a lot of possibilities. Carlos Alberto, we have Trubisky definitely has the tools to succeed with Shanahan in San Francisco. I hope he ends up there. Very good chance he could, which would be ironic because San Francisco's the one that made the trade to get them in that position. I don't know. Jimmy Garoppolo, I talked to Solomon Thomas a couple weeks ago, and he feels really confident with him in the locker room. I know they made a play for Matt Stafford. We'll see where they continue this offseason. But I think, Sky, and all you 49ers fans, you better kind of start to wrap your head around the idea that Jimmy G is going to be your guy again next year. And if everybody gets back on defense in a healthy way, this is a team that can compete just like they did a few years ago. Unfortunately, what Patrick Mahomes has done, really him bursting on the scene and his play in that Super Bowl, we're a literal overthrow by Jimmy Garoppolo from talking about him as a world champion. We really are. He didn't make the play in the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes did make the play. And that was the difference in that game. It really was. And what it's
And
done.
if he makes that pass, Patrick Mahomes probably doesn't make $500 million. I'll just throw that out there. At least not this year. It was huge. Huge momentum change. Absolutely, yeah.
Especially
sore spot for us Niners. I appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks.
Well, especially as if you got into 2 Super Bowls and lost to both. Yeah, that would be a key one, right? We're talking John Elway style there, right? John Elway lost his first 4 before he went in his last 2 when Kelly he was my age. Yeah, Jim Kelly 0-4 as well. Let's move on to a couple other sports before we get out of here today. But first, let's talk about one of our other sponsors. So, as most people who follow me know, that I am allergic to alcohol, in that if I drink it, I break out in handcuffs. And so I was looking for a partner that could help with that. And I found this great company, Athletic Brewing. It's a non-alcoholic brewery based here in the United States, right? All the great taste, all the social part of it. I found it really difficult to be in social environments and not like have a drink in my hand when I got sober. It's just weird. It was just like a human nature. And sometimes just hearing the that sound, that makes you pleased. And you don't have to end up being everybody out there don't want to get drunk, right? And not feel bad. This is for you. And it's based in athletics, right? It's based in healthy living, in wellness. It's thought of that in its brewing. And go to athleticbrewing.com and tell them where you heard about them, and get them. This one right here is a non-alcoholic golden. I was a Bud Light drinker, okay, when I was in my drinking days, and so I was always kind of a light beer guy. So breweries for me are always dark beers and everything like that. People really get into it. Well, they've taken really good care. So this one's the upside dawn. All right, it's a golden ale. It's pretty good, pretty darn good. So we want to thank them as well. Like these are two sponsors in Sunfair and Athletic Brewing that really kind of jumped on board without not knowing much other than what their products mean to me. And I really think they can help out a lot of people out there, going through similar situations. And I thank them. And again, athleticbrewing.com for some non-alcoholic beer. If you like the taste, don't like the feeling of being messed up the next morning. I like that. I like that kind of group. Let's go with that.
Me too.
Yeah, that's people talk about having to take the edge off. I look at everything as mood altering now, right? Because my drug of choice was Vicodin, and I was constantly looking to numb my feelings. But I thought years down the line, I'll be 9 years sober in April. I thought, hey, if the boys want to go have a beer, watch the game, what's wrong with that? Alcohol was never my issue. And that's why I'm not an abstinence guy either, right? It was like I say when I preface this, I'm allergic to it. Like that's my affliction. It's not everybody's, understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. I would if I would go out and have a real alcoholic beer now, I'd be doing it to alter my mood, so I would feel different. That's the only reason I would do it. I like the taste, yeah, but I don't need the mood altering aspect of it. So Athletic Brewing is the way I go, and it's been wonderful. All right, sports teams. Since I'm holding the baseball bat, my favorite baseball team. Does anybody know my favorite baseball team?
All right, I hope you're not a Mariners fan because you're from Montana, so I'm just thinking geographically. But
right? No, I'm not a Mariners fan.
Are you a Pirates
Phillies?
fan?
I'm gonna go Padres.
Close.
Padres.
It was close. I'm a Chicago Cubs diehard fan.
Cubbies. I can get behind that. I'll get behind that.
Bryant.
I'll get behind Cubbies.
Well, Ryan Sandberg. Ryan Sandberg is what it stands from. I grew up believing that I was going to play shortstop for the Chicago Cubs in turn 2 with Ryan Sandberg. That was the thought process for me. So in Montana, there are no pro teams. It's where I grew up. So my pro affiliation bounces all over the place. Okay. and the Cubs in baseball because WGN was on TV and they played, and I watched Ryan Sandberg, and that was my team, and they have forever. Now, when they won the World Series a few years back, it was absolutely horrific having to deal with it because I was just waiting for everything to fall apart. And so I didn't really get to enjoy it. So they need to, this year, with some of their pickups, I'm excited for what this year has to bring. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like I'm going to be able to go to any games. I always loved going to this 4-game series here in LA, sitting behind the Cubs bench with my Cubs jersey on. Now I can bring my son. He rocks his, I'm making him a Cubs fan already. I don't know if he'll stick with that, but we'll see. All right, Scott, what's your team?
San Francisco Giants. I'm actually wearing a throwback 1954 New York Giants hat here, commemorative to the World Series
too, which is
over Cleveland. And you know what? People can think it's a Mets hat. That's fine. I know in my heart it's a Giants hat. It's a throwback Giants hat.
That's all that matters.
I'm a collector of the Hall of Fame, the old school, the throwbacks. So shouts out to my boy Willie Mays and Giants all day.
I like it. I like it. All right, Jonathan, where are we at?
I'm a Red Sox fan. Die hard. Just day one of my life, I just latched onto the Boston sports fan experience minus the racism. And I've been a Red Sox fan. Literally, that was the first sport I ever played, I ever loved, the first team I ever loved. It's going to be an interesting year. That AL East is it's pretty stacked now that Toronto's reloaded both a couple offensive weapons. We'll see how Vladdy Guerrero Jr. does. And they got some good pitching. Orioles are going to be trash. The Yankees, I want them to be trash, but they're the Yankees. They're going to find a way to win 95 to 100 games. So I'm hoping that my boys, my Beantown boys, can sneak in as a wild card out of that AL East. But it's going to be an interesting season. When Eduardo Rodriguez is your number one pitcher, you don't have a lot of confidence in your team.
I think it's going to be a tough year for the Red Sox fans out there. I just do. So I'm prepping you for that one. All right, Charlie, where are you at? Midwest. What's your team?
Ryan, I think it's awesome you're a fan of the Cubs, but I think there's a different team in Chicago you got to root for.
Oh, man.
So, I was waiting for it.
I'm a White Sox fan. Have not been the biggest of baseball fans lately, but since I've been back at school, one of my buddies, Noah Shoetank, got me back into it. So shout out to him. But go White Sox. Got Tim Anderson, Jose Abreu. I think this might be the year we break through, make another make an actual run in the playoffs this year. We just need to get some more pitching, and I'm hopeful to see what's to come.
Dude, Jose Abreu.
All righty. All right.
He's a beast.
Well, there we got the NFL, we got Major League Baseball. So we got that. We'll hit it up the rest of the week to figure out what our biases are here on the RDL show. I wanted to get to a couple more things before we get out of here. Can't believe that the show has gone by this quick. But I wanted to get into some of the Josh Gordon, Johnny Manziel news, right? So we were talking about Josh Gordon, and he joined the Zappers of the Fan-Controlled Football League. This is kind of a cool concept, right? It allows the fans to pick plays, pick positions, pick lineups, all this stuff, and then they got to go out and execute it. Now, it's on a shorter field. Looks very similar to what we looked at in terms of the Arena Football League, right? But Josh Gordon, who has had multiple chances to get it right there in the NFL, because he is one of the most talented players we've seen in a long time, just hasn't been able to figure it out. And I know a lot of people are talking about, it being marijuana, and hey, it's let guys do what they need to do, and he's a great football player, but that's not it, right? When you are propositioned with a simple thing as much as this, just don't do something, and you get to play the game of your dreams and make a lot of money doing it, and you aren't able to do that, that's a problem, right? And therefore puts you in a position where you're not allowed to. There's consequences, and there's no accountability to that. And we're going to watch a couple players that weren't able to take a lot of accountability for their actions for a long time. And I think reuniting with one another might be a good thing. Now, what do you guys think of this league? It's very, like I said, very arena league football to me. And it sounds like, from what I talked to when we talked to Johnny, he's having fun. He's just having fun doing it. And if a guy wants to have fun playing football, unfortunately, he's going to get the rag and tag from a bunch of people online and things like that. But He says he's enjoying himself. There's a bunch of different, interesting concepts that come with it. What's your guys' opinion of this so far?
This league reminds me of two things. So the first thing I think of is like live action video games. It's almost like it's like real life VR, so like real life virtual reality. Just the game style. It's like just points, right? 3 down linemen, passing only kind of a league. But I also kind of it throws me back to like middle school when it was a rainy day in PE and we had to go into the gym and play football in the gym instead of out on the field. That's kind of the vibe I get here. But this is going to be a fun league. And look, to see Johnny Manziel with a smile on his face with his troubles and things in the league, and I've always rooted for Josh Gordon as well. Incredible talent, as you mentioned. I'm rooting for both these guys, and I really hope not only entertainment-wise, but I hope they get back to the thing that they're best at.
I think it's interesting. As of the younger generation,
does it have any staying power?
I mean, I don't think so. Long term, I don't think so.
Well, the XFL, which is going to get a reboot, right, with The Rock, with the AAFL, I think it was something like that, the AFL, American Football League. Nothing seems sustainable. The XFL seemed like they were, media organizations, networks, they were all in on that. And I don't know if COVID puts it down, I don't know if that is more successful. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think COVID had a big influence on that, but it seemed like there was more excitement around this XFL than any of the leagues that have tried to kickstart a spring league before.
Well, yeah, and then you get guys. Oh, sorry,
you get guys. Right?
Yeah,
The Rock runs it now,
and you got guys in the NFL that have been on low end contracts because of their performances in the XFL, and it's been interesting. Obviously, Washington football is is sort of the catalyst of one of the better examples on that. Interesting note here, Ryan. FCS football is on, and North Dakota State did lose a big one. I think it was Southeastern Illinois or Southern Illinois that beat
Southern Illinois, the Salukis. Yeah, their first loss in forever. Trey Lance, they're everything quarterback, played in the one game in the fall to just kind of showcase himself a little bit. Chose to go pro, is considered a possible first-round draft pick at the quarterback position. Ironically enough, North Dakota State is going to may produce a couple first-round draft picks in the last decade. That's pretty special from a FCS team. But them getting beat is a big deal, right? They've been a dominant force, and they just didn't get beat, right? They got beat down. A Hail Mary before the first half that tipped for a touchdown, and then a fumble on a kickoff or on a punt, late in the game that resulted in a first and goal opportunity, and those were their 14 points. So they got nothing. Hopefully the first spring season decision to play doesn't remove some of that tarnish from this this legend of a program at the FCS level. It could be a tough spring. We'll wait to see. Eligibility wise, I'm assuming it's the same. They play in the spring league. They don't lose any eligibility, just like everybody who played in Division I level didn't lose any eligibility, and they get going again in the fall. I'm interested to see how this affects the body, playing games like this and having such a short time off before they ramp it up and play again in the fall. We'll see. But yeah, big news. They were the linchpin for FCS championships, and they got the barn doors blown off yesterday. So that's pretty crazy. Fun to see some football. I had the TV up. All the TV at the command center up on I think it was Saturday, and I had that game on. I had a bunch of college basketball games on, in particular the Pac-12 basketball people. USC looked like the team that was just going to run roughshod a couple weeks ago, or literally 3 games ago, and they had a gauntlet of games where they had to play Colorado, Oregon,
and Utah,
and they got beat by 2 or 3 of those, and so they're in a position right now where we have no idea heading into the tournament, which is going to be fun. Oregon, a la football, may back in as the regular season champion, like they did in football, But you can't fault them for it. They just keep winning games and doing things right. So
watch Oregon
your little
sports, people. Softball beat the #1 team in the country, UCLA, this weekend. Soccer
Lady
beat
Ducks.
the #1. The Lady Ducks, the soccer team, handed Stanford their first conference loss. The #1 ranked Stanford women's soccer team.
How come I
Their
can't control
first
the mute
loss.
button on here? Why can't I control the mute button?
Because
We haven't
that's
gotten to the
producer's
college football
job.
aspect of things. There's 2 Oregon Ducks on this show, guys, and they're going to be very biased about the Oregon
Women's
Ducks. So we'll
soccer
just have
beat the defending champs, gave them their first conference loss since 2016 this past week. I just want to
we'll
throw a shout out.
We'll take that all with a grain of salt. On Wednesday, guys, we're going to have probably our first guest of the week. We haven't decided on which direction we're going to go there. I really want to get into the loss of Vincent Jackson and just yesterday of Lewis Knicks, who passed away at 29 years old. This hits hits home hard for me. And so I'm going to delve into this a little bit more on Wednesday to give it its just due, and what the NFL and the NFLPA can do moving forward to help the guys that built this league, that really did, and what other players, former players such as myself, can do to help make things better as well. So that's it, folks. That's the inaugural Ryan D. Leaf show. Take it with a grain of salt. The first one we had. Let us know what you thought. Please get involved. This with perspective like this from Robert, I appreciate that. The Leafs perspective on sports will be great. The willingness to share your story will help people. Great first show. Thank you. That's meaningful. I walk into rooms sometimes and I speak to a room full of 250, 300 people. And I always say to myself that if I reach one person, that will be the whole reason why. So that kind of fits in here. If we reach one person for the time being, and you have fun for the hour, that's all we care about. Mm-hmm. We'll see you again Wednesday, noon Pacific, here on YouTube. From all of us here at the Ryan D. Leaf Show, thank you for being a part of it. And we'll see you Wednesday. Thanks.